Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
My name's Stephanie Olson with Stephanie Olson Speaking and Consulting, and I just want to say I met Lauren a year and a half ago, but it was 2 months ago that I decided that Lauren was going to be my coach, and boy, that was not a mistake. He has truly transformed my life in not only just personally and how I view myself and my speaking and my consulting, but he has transformed the work. Since I have been working with Lauren for 2 months, he has put me in front of people that are changing my life. He has put me on stages that are stages that I could have never got on before. He has given me opportunities where I can get awards that I would have never had. So thank you, Lauren. And if you want to change your life, give him a call.
morning. Good morning. Wake your asses up. Ain't no sleeping in here today. I know it's Monday and it's cold. Ooh, it's cold here in Chicago, but it's warm where we are together. Why? Because we bring the heat. You best believe. Come on now. Give me an amen. Put it in the comments. Welcome. Welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I am your host, Lauren Michaels Harris. I almost forgot my own name. Lord Jesus. I'm kidding. I didn't. But it has been known to happen. Trust. Anyway, boy, here we are. You know what this is. Thanksgiving week. Are you doing any of the cooking? Are you doing any of the hosting? You know, we're not hosting because we're going to my in-laws, but they don't cook ever. There's nothing in their refrigerator, and they got one of those big old Sub-Zero expensive refrigerators. Guess what's in there? My mother-in-law's insulin and Fiji water. That's it. I know. They got it so well. I don't know. I love cooking. They head to their little restaurant and pick their food up every meal. I know. Well, I'll tell you one thing. That stove will be dirty when I'm done with it this week. For real. Because I'm cooking up a whole bunch of stuff. So what are you doing? Where are you going? I'm excited for this year's holiday season. I really am. You know, it's been so rough on so many the last couple years with COVID. And then, last year's scandal. Last year, because, I have two families. Then we have Brian's family. Last year was all about, are they all vaxxed? So there was a vaxxed house and there was a non-vaxxed house, and they could not stand each other at the time. I think they're back to normal now, if there is such a thing. But anyway, what's it like in your neck of the woods? What are you guys planning? Are you getting on the road? Are you traveling? They say that the travel is closer this year to what it was before COVID than ever before. So that means we're making progress. So whatever you do, remember what this is for. I know it's an American holiday for all of you watching around the world, but thanks is something that we should give all the time. Can I get an amen? I am so grateful. I truly am. I truly am. Sometimes we forget, but anyway, we're going to get more into that. I just want to give you heads up. There will be reruns here at Bathrobe Moments Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So after tomorrow's show, I'll see you live again on Monday. But E360 is going to choose 3 of the top shows from this year to rerun those days. So you still want to, if you missed them, check in. You might get something that you need for the day. Can I get an amen? Okay. So, Jed, come on in. He says this every Monday. What in tarnation happened to the weekend? Good question. It flew. That's what it did. Boom. Flew by. What did I do? Oh, I went to a great event last night in Chicago at the Stan Mansion. Shout out to our friends there. It was a one-man show. It was phenomenal. A Romanian actor. And I went, and it was nonverbal. So didn't matter what you spoke as a language, you were able to. It was really powerful. I'll tell you more about that tomorrow when I get my little thing together, so I can show you some of it. Anywho, yep, this guy is still making life hard on me. That's Matthew, my new trainer. I'll see him tomorrow night, but let's not mention him today, shall we? No offense, Matthew. You guys know, you saw Trajectory is out. It's tomorrow, and it will be 3 weeks old. My little newborn, that baby. I love that baby. And a lot of people are setting appointments for content creation meetings where they're gonna throw their ideas out at our team, and we're so excited. People from all over the world. We got 4 of those calls today. So if you or someone you know is a consummate content creator, you are a wonderfully gifted storyteller, and you want to change the world with everything you've ever lived, then you holler at your boy. Okay, I might have something you can use. Also, don't forget this Wednesday, even though it's a holiday week, a new podcast, a new episode of License for Love with my good friend Cowboy Jax Young out of Nashville. We are the diversity duo, also the heartbeat in relationship conversation. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, Phil. And again, get over. I'm wearing one of their shirts today. I ordered it from Kohl's. My brothers, I love them. triple nickel. In 2 years, they have gone from their living room to the garage to their big, they have a huge warehouse now, and they are in Kohl's. God is good all the time. And even though it says today's the day, November 9th, thank you, Misty Riston, and all of the people at Campground TBD Publishing. This book went #1 in the United States in multiple categories and also internationally last week. So that was great. Last announcement. Romania, here we come. Thank you, Jesus. I'm so excited. We are going to bring. Where am I? I kind of like that. We are going to bring hope, love, joy, inspiration, and a plethora of other great things to all the people, but specifically young kids over in Romania. We're headed there in May of 2023, and we'd love for you to join us. It is possible. If you're interested, DM me, and I'll let you know how that can happen more as we get closer. Today's guest, I'm really excited. What an interesting woman. She does about 800 different things, okay? The one thing she doesn't do, you might have seen a promo that said she was an international bestseller. I'm not laying blame, but E360 made that. Anyway, I told her in there, they said she's an international bestseller. She said she's not. I said, well, claim it anyway. You might just be this time next year or sooner. But who is she? Who is she? Her name is Elysia. I always want to say Elysia, but it's Elysia Buss, Buss. Now, here's a little, well, I think I want to just bring her in for the sake of time and let her have a moment with you privately like I've been doing here lately. But she's never been here. She has a wonderful men's summit coming up early December, the first week. I'm a part of it. We're going to get into that today. I know a few of the people who are there. It's going to be awesome. And I just find it so interesting that she's doing this work specifically with men because, and why, let me tell you why I'm excited about that. Not to take anything from the women and the men who work specifically with women. But good Lord, did anybody outside of our guest today remember that we men need help too? Clearly, right? So I am so glad that Elysia Buss is here today. So put some hearts on the screen. It's our way of digitally welcoming our guests. It's applauding through the screen. So throw some hearts on the screen because guess what? Oh, here she comes. I almost did that song. She's a man eater, but I don't know. She might not like that. Anyway, here she comes. I had to laugh some more. Hey, Elise, I'm trying to see if somebody slipped something in my coffee this morning. Huh? Ever since Bill Cosby, I don't leave nothing uncovered. Nothing. So I'm just saying, sorry, Bill, but you shouldn't have done it. Anyway, welcome. You look great.
Thank you so much.
Global Resources for Men.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm. What's your boyfriend say about that?
Oh, he's amazing. He's incredibly supportive and actually helps me sometimes put together the promos. And she has a PhD in neuroscience, so he gets to look at that. He does, yeah.
Dang, girl. You almost got a rocket scientist.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. I'm very lucky.
Well, you know what? Seriously, though, you're blessed because, a lot of guys wouldn't be able to handle that. You work.
That is true.
Men.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an interesting conversation. Yeah, I know. I work primarily with men. I do work with women as well, since I have my women's group, and because you never want to leave the ladies out. And it's fun to be able to bring up the same conversation piece in both groups, because my men's group has about 340 men in it around the world, and then my women's group has about 460. Wow. So it's interesting to bring up the topics and then see how the conversation evolves and the different viewpoints and how they align and how they don't.
Well, listen, since I figured something just told me, I always do this. I like to give the guest a minute to just have a personal moment with the audience. So just introduce yourself, fill in the blanks that the bio would have, and then I'll come back in and we'll get started because I want to get into this summit. I really do. Okay. So next minute is all you. I'm going to dip out and I'll be right back.
All right, sounds great. Well, good morning, everybody. I am originally from Washington State. I now reside in Virginia after spending 4.5 months driving across the country 3 times after just having sort of divine inspiration. I had my YouTube channel for horsepower empowerment through connection, and I started that at the beginning of the pandemic. And in that vein, I had interviewed a dear friend of mine named Jake LaRue, who is actually on this year's summit. We'll get into that more later. And at the end of our interview, after he had vulnerably shared his story about being convicted of domestic assault and battery and his journey of redemption in partnership with horses, he shared with me that he really wished he had a group of guys he could talk to about masculinity. And in that moment, I just had this divine inspiration of saying, like, well, why don't I just host a men's summit? Before that moment, I had not really thought about working with men. But in seeing the need across the board as I spoke to more and more men, it was really apparent that I needed to continue to move forward in supporting men in whatever ways that I could. So we started the men's group for Global Resources for Men on Facebook, and I started my journey. I just packed up everything that I had in my Ford F-150, and I drove across the country in October of 2020, not really knowing where I would land, just leaning into faith and the ability to connect with people. And it was really beautiful how supportive people were just across the nation, letting me stay at their home. I didn't pay for any place. I stayed for 4.5 months while I just traveled 3 times across the country and promoted the work that we were doing to support men.
Wow. So how many times did somebody scream, "Get out of here, whore"? I'm just kidding.
Never.
No, because women will go, raise the eyebrow of suspicion, but then that's just real. I mean, I don't think they really do, but
it's surprising because women actually really support the work that I'm doing. It's only a
really?
it's a rare occasion that I have a woman that lifts the eyebrow and is like,
What you
support for
really doing?
men, like men's rights, because I advocate for equal rights and men's rights. And
They
they're just
already
like,
have all the
they're
rights.
like, what are you doing? They're
That's
like,
what I meant.
yeah, what rights? But even then, it's very rare. Like, I think I've only run across maybe 3 or 4 women in 2.5 years.
Well, that's encouraging.
Yeah,
That's
and
encouraging.
yeah, and I explained to them the why of what I'm doing, because it's really about being human.
Right. Now, what about men? Because I had, like, Lane Balone was here. I think it was Friday.
Lane is fantastic.
You know Lane?
I do.
Oh
He's
my.
going to be on next year's summit for masculinity and physical health.
Lane is just awesome. I am not kidding you. He's just wonderful. If you guys don't know him, if you missed the show, go back and watch it and
Absolutely
follow
should.
him. But what about, because Lane and his and Stephen Coons, they had Humble Alpha, and there's a lot, you always hear alpha and all the toxic masculinity and all this. And a lot of guys, I would have thought a lot of guys would be like, well, what in the world? Why in the hell we want a woman? What's she know about us being men? How does she know? Because you always hear about people saying, ooh, bring in your masculine and feminine. And it's usually to the men. But I've never heard where a woman where they tell the women, bring in your masculinity. Well, there was that one beer tin at the Gay Pride in '84. But that's another show. That was another show. Yeah, my girls, but seriously, tell us why you feel this work is important, and what are you learning by keeping your finger on the pulse of what men need and what they need to be able to talk about? Because that's the thing. Even I have trouble with my own husband about certain things. he was like, what's wrong with you? Nothing. What's wrong with you? Nothing. But he has to ask me like 100 times before I finally break down and say, well, what is that with us that we feel it's a weakness to ask for help or to speak something that we might have a little fear attached to? What is that? What have you found?
Well, I can only speak to the conversations that I've had. So I'm an empowerment coach and men's mindset coach, but I'm not a counselor. And I always like to make that very clear for people. In my journey, what I've seen, like, I'll just start kind of from the beginning of what you were asking me. What I've noticed speaking to men literally across the globe is that men feel like they're often not really heard. They feel like they can't experience the full range of human emotion and express that outwardly without potentially being judged for what they're experiencing.
There it is, the word, that J word. And
Yeah.
it's true, because I'm going to tell you something. I'm keeping it real. I can do that. I don't know about y'all, but I'm gonna. Because when you mentioned the guy who you said was so grateful to have a group of guys that he could talk about
Masculinity.
no, about the violent thing, the domestic violence.
Oh, yes, we do talk about domestic violence and men experiencing domestic violence at the hands of women as well as other men.
See what I'm saying? All kinds of things that we have, and we're afraid to bring it up because when you were saying that with him, I was like, ew, what's wrong with him? Right. How you just gonna let her put her hand, talk about that. Why is it that it has taken so long, in your opinion, for this to become something that is commonplace? And it's still not, but hopefully it's getting there. Why is that?
There's
Who's
a lot
responsible?
there's a lot of built-in shame for people, irregardless really of gender identification, but especially for men stereotypically over the course of history are expected to be strong. They're expected to be the protector, right? And when a person shows vulnerability, then it can potentially make the other person that they're with feel insecure, like the relationship isn't stable or that person isn't as able to provide. This is what I've heard in conversation, again, not necessarily my personal experience, but that, especially like men who experience sexual trauma, that's also something that's not really spoken about. And we have Perry Power, who's going to be on the summit talking about he's a childhood sexual survivor. Sexual abuse survivor. Perry's amazing. Yeah, he's from Great Britain. Yes, Lauren was kind enough to hook me up with Perry as a speaker, and I'm very grateful that he's going to be bringing a lot of.
Isn't he amazing?
He is amazing.
He is. He has helped so many men find that place to be able to talk about that sexual abuse they experience within their journey. And a lot of people think it's just when you're kids. You'd be surprised how many men as adults have experienced sexual trauma of some sort. It's just amazing. So tell us, what was on your mind when you said, okay, as soon as the download came, were you like, I think I'll do this? What was your initial objective in starting this work with men? What did you want to see happen?
Yeah, so it just felt right when it came. It was just kind of stream of consciousness as it came out of my mouth. And and what I thought of was wanting to have true diversity and inclusion, because that's important to me. And so my first thought was that I wanted representation from every continent so that we could have cultural perspective coming in. Because I think a lot of people kind of get stuck in the ideas of who's in their backyard. You know what I mean? And it's important because some people never really get out much. They don't travel. And it's important to be able to travel and get perspectives outside of your own cultural experience and see about humanity. Because really, it doesn't matter this is what I've learned over the course of the last 2.5 years, talking to men all over the world, and women for that matter, is that it doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is, what your religion is, what your politics are, what your upbringing is. Being human is just being human. True. Many of us, regardless of where we live in the world, experience depression, anxiety, burnout, fear, anger, rage, like all the basic human emotions. And we don't necessarily always have healthy modeling of how to channel that energy in a way that is functional. And that creates dysfunctional experiences for people, which is where you get the word of toxicity. But it's really not that masculinity is toxic at all. It's that immature masculinity creates toxic experiences for people, just like immature femininity can also create toxic experiences for people. And so if we could just take away that word of like masculinity being toxic, is that we can see that there are ways for us to model for one another and be supported in a healthy way.
I just thought about it. I don't think I've ever heard of toxic femininity. Have you?
I mean, it's here and there. It's not nearly as
It's
often.
not. But let's go back to, I love when you said healthy modeling, because I was formulating the next question as you spoke that, and it ties right in. What have you started to ascertain from your work so far as men who were raised by just their mother or some female grandmother, because a lot of people, as opposed to men who had those fathers in the house that were, that's, don't put that back and clean it out, that's women's work, or all the other things that could happen. Are you seeing concrete things that fall in those categories that can say, aha, that's where it began? Talk about that if you could.
That's an interesting question. So, in the people that I've spoken to that were raised in households that were predominantly women, if they had a bunch of sisters, or they had a single mom, or if their mom was just a really strong figure in their family, they tend to be more connected to the feminine. They tend to be more open to conversation, and just be able to kind of articulate their feelings a bit more, I think. I've also noticed that sometimes they can tend to be people pleasers more.
The men.
The men that are raised in those situations. And that is obviously me just saying this is my experience of people I've talked to, and this is not like a generalization that all people are going to be like that. I ran across men sometimes that have had really healthy role modeling from their fathers and their brothers, and raised in that space of mature masculinity, versus the immature masculinity that propagates fear and greater violence and shoving down emotions.
So give us a couple examples of the left and the right hand, immature versus mature. Give us, because, for that person, that parent who is raising a young boy or a teenage boy or just a boy, what are some of the examples of both of those, just that you've discovered?
Sure. So, a basic situation that most of us can think of is when a kid has hurt feelings. And so the immature masculine would shut down that kid that's experiencing those emotions, be like, don't talk about it, don't cry, boys don't cry. That would be the immature masculine, because that is basically showing that there is insecurity around the ability to express one's feelings, instead of being able to, in a mature fashion, being able to acknowledge that a child is hurting physically and or emotionally, and say what it is, what do you need? And direct them to just saying, it's okay. Like, I'm a safe person to talk to about what it is that you're feeling. Let's work on this together so that you feel more secure. And obviously using different terms depending on the age of the child that you're interacting with, but really creating that space of safety. That's what mature masculinity does. It creates a space of safety for any human being that's in front of it, be it a leader in a corporation, because a person can lead from safety and security and not always having to be the person that's in the limelight, versus a person who is in a space of immature masculinity and they have leadership where they have to shut down everybody and work out of a space of fear. So their power comes from a space of fear and people cowering to them and be like, oh, okay, like, I don't want to get in trouble. Like, I'll do whatever you ask, versus somebody getting to step together.
You're absolutely right. I'm going to go back to when you say, oh, I'm not a counselor, but I'm going to tell you what's been happening. Just interesting. While you're speaking, I immediately went, but this is why this group and all this work she's doing is good. Just in here, us talking about it. When I asked you about the examples, I went back to my adopted mom's funeral. I was 9, and I was sitting on the very end of the front pew, closest to the casket. And my brother, who was on this show just a few weeks ago, and we had not had any contact for 48 years.
Wow.
Until recently. And I remember, and Henry, if you're watching, sorry, but it's the way it was. I was crying, and he kept pinching me and telling me not to cry. Boys don't cry. And that carried over Fast forward 6 weeks later, the family didn't win the fight to keep me because I wasn't supposed to be there in the first place, apparently. And so I'm in the system. And now when I need to cry, even alone, I couldn't. And that lasted until I was in my 20s. And then when I could cry, it was through rage. I was throwing things and breaking things, and it was not a healthy cry. And I did not even connect that, I promise you, until just now.
Wow.
So
Thank
let
you for
me ask
sharing.
you this, because I'm looking at how it just took you opening, the door, and there I went. When you're in your group and there's a conversation going on, or there's a live thing or something, do you find guys they wait for, well, who's going first? I ain't going first. I'm gonna wait till somebody, does it, what is that? Because that's how I would do. I would keep my mouth shut until I felt safe.
Yeah.
So talk about that. What is that? And how do you get these men to just feel comfortable enough to let it out?
It's an interesting sort of thing. That's kind of my special skill set, is creating a space where people feel safe.
That's a gift.
And yeah, and that they won't feel judged for what their life experience is. I've had my own interesting life story, from one into another. And it's interesting too, because I step into the space. I've been sexually assaulted by men before, and yet I still stand forward for men, because I know that not all men are in that space. It doesn't make all men unsafe just because I've been raped
Wow,
before.
I got chills when you said that. No,
Just because.
seriously, Elysia, hats off to you, because that's very big of you. That's very big of you. Seriously. Let me ask you this one. What about, do you ever see, how we get married, whether it's to a woman or a man, we get married, because this happened in my marriage, where stuff that was attached to my sexual trauma, I didn't even know. For instance, when I wear flannel, like pajamas or long underwear, that's what I wore as a kid. And my very first abuser would come in, you're pretending like you're asleep, because, and would rub my leg. And when I got married and we'd be watching a movie or something, I'd feel Brian's hand on and I'd freak out. My heart would start pounding, and I'd jerk away. And thank God I married a therapist. I knew it had to be either a therapist or a plastic surgeon, because I was going to need both. So I got one out of two. But he helped bring me through that. So let's talk about this. What about men who, I bet you it's happened inside your work, where they're in a relationship for a number of years, but they still have secrets from their spouse about things, and it comes out and the spouse thinks it's them or something they've done wrong. Talk about that and how freeing it is when we as men are able to say, listen, guess what happened when? Have you had
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. It's
Okay.
incredibly freeing, and it's about how to communicate your needs and desires to the person that's in front of you. And those needs and desires include what safety looks like for you. And you might not even know what safety looks like for you if you haven't experienced it before.
That is right on point, girl. For real. I'm not, matter of fact, girl. I got to put it up on screen. Right. It's a lot. Listen, but it's not too much. It's so much, but it's never too much. When we come back, we're going to take a short break, just a minute or two. And when we come back, I want to go into your event. Now, that's coming up when?
Yeah. December 9th and 10th.
And is it in person, virtual, both?
It's a virtual event. It's for men only. Sorry, ladies, you can have access to the recordings later, but this is just for the guys. And part of the reason for that is we really want to hold a sacred, safe container for the guys, and for them to not have to worry about any pushback. Like, I will be the only woman there as the host, and men know that I'm safe because I'm hosting it.
Right.
So.
Right. And so if women are listening, those women who are listening, because there are some, I see them on the screen. We got a lot of comments today. When we come back, before we get into, I'm going to show the website and we're going to talk about some of the speakers. Try to frame this. So when we come back, you can pass this out to those women that might feel this is something good for one of the men in their life, a brother, a father, a grandfather, an
Absolutely.
uncle, a son, a neighbor, how to open the door to here's something you might want to check out coming up in a couple weeks. Okay. Okay. You
Absolutely.
guys, listen, don't go away. It's just starting to get good. We'll be back in just a minute. All of our stories begin with either in the beginning or once upon a time. And for me, my story began pretty much, and this is how it was referred to for quite a while, a backdoor deal. I could be living in a different neighborhood, in a different school, with different kids in the same bedroom from day to day. And so it began to feel like I was moving through a maze. I was always the kind of kid who would talk to my imaginary friends. They would talk back. And I know now that it was a great thing because it was carving out a place for me to dream. A lot of us will say, well, I want to lose 10 pounds. And then down the road, we've gained it. Why? Because want comes like a wish list, but need comes with a plan. When you feel that power, that is your story, and you see how many paths it can light, trust me, there's nothing in the world that will make you say it wasn't worth it. Welcome back to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. And before we bring the wonderful Elysia Buss back, VA, you might want to serve this up Thanksgiving Day. I'm kidding. Well, you might. I'm just saying. Listen, but I drink one every day. Why? Because it has 2.5 servings of vegetables in every one of these cans. It is 100% vegetable juice from concentrate. And, are you ready? 60 calories. Only 60 calories, and that's good news, right? So ditch what is not serving you, not just in the form of food and drink and everything, but if it's a drink like power drinks, or in my case, it was Diet Coke, get rid of it and try this. Just try it. It's easy to find. Head down the juice aisle at your local grocer and just check it out. You might find something that serves you. I know I did. Delicious. Tastes just like candy. I stole that line from you, Lucy. Okay, let's get our guests back in. Hi, Elysia.
Hey, my boyfriend loves that stuff, that V8. He just, yeah.
I do too, because
Okay.
it's such a one and done, right. Let's go into, remember I asked you to think about how a female might, or even a guy who wants to tell another guy, dude, you might want to check this thing out. Is there a good way to ease this across the table to somebody? Like, what's in that box? I don't know. Open it up and look.
Yeah.
They're so defensive.
Absolutely.
What you trying to say?
So there's so much that's going on in the world, obviously, that people are struggling with violence. There's this shootings, there's depression, suicide. Suicide rates are 3 to 6 times higher for men than women, depending on the country's statistics that you're looking at. And if that isn't indicative of a problem, I really don't know what is. So, I mean, seriously. So there are lots of things that people can just bring up in society and say, yeah, so and this happened to so-and-so. I know my friend is struggling with this. And I think that this summit on masculinity and mental health would be really helpful for them. And if the person that you're with is struggling with something, it gives them the opportunity to see that that's a resource, even if they don't necessarily want to have a conversation about it and how they need it yet. So you're kind of giving them the autonomy
to
look into it themselves. If they're in a space where they're already reaching for help, then obviously you can just look at one of the many speakers that we have and see what topic they're touching on and say, hey, this person over here already went through this and they came out on the other end and they're going to be speaking about some of the ways that they can help you.
Awesome. Well, let's go on the site and take a look. and you can walk us down through it. It's the 3rd annual Global Men's Summit on Masculinity and Mental Health. So 3rd, and I don't want to assume, but did you start this during COVID, or did you take a break and you're picking back up?
No, I did. I started it in October. We had that first interview in August of 2020. And so that conversation started, and we had our first summit in November of 2020. And then that was on masculinity in business. And then we had our second summit on masculinity in relationships in January. So it's been actually almost 2 years since the last summit. I'm like, I have to squeeze it in there, or else I can't say it's the annual one. So
exactly.
It's been a mad rush to try and get this one done, because it was last minute because of my health stuff I had this summer. I'm fine. But yeah, it's been an interesting process putting this together, and I'm really excited to get back on track with next year.
I'm excited for you, and I'm excited, as you see on the screen, everybody, to be a part of this awesome opportunity to speak internationally about all things masculine. So there I am. I can't talk about
in your fabulous jacket.
Thank you.
I love that jacket so much.
Here's the one thing about that jacket. You can only wear it once. You can only wear it once. I mean, who's gonna forget that thing, right?
I mean, you just step out in there and you're like, boom.
Yes. Thank you. So I'm going to be one of the things, I'll just give you one and the rest you'll have to show up for. But I'm going to be talking about this topic as far as it pertains to the LGBTQ community. And I'm so grateful to you for allowing me and asking me, seriously, Elysia, to talk on this, because it's very rare. It's very rare. And I don't push it because I want them to be totally open to it. So when someone reaches and says, hey, will you do this? I go, and I go again. So thank you for that. But let's jump to Jake LaRue. Tell us about this speaker.
Jake LaRue is the person who started it all. This man is the person who opened up his heart and trusted me with his story for the first time. And he is a former Marine. So it's important to me to have excellent representation. For veterans, absolutely.
Amen.
And as well as obviously the LGBTQ plus community. So Jake works with horses, and he'll be talking to people about mental health and the experience as a Marine, and just so much more. I don't want to give too much away, because I want you to go on the site and take a look yourself.
Exactly.
But Jake, as a former Marine, I really appreciate him in the balance he has between his masculine and feminine energy. And he just honors the whole piece and the messiness of being human sometimes. So he's a great role model in that regard.
Well, anybody that can put hair ties on a beard is good in my book. Now, real quick, the equine piece, because you do some work with horses as well, right?
I do. So my postgraduate degree is in equine assisted learning, and I help people in connection with having greater amounts of personal accountability and treating horses as sentient beings. And horses work in nonverbal communication. And as human beings, we struggle a lot with that, which I think is part of the reason that people struggle more and more with anxiety these days, because people's behavior is less predictable since they can't read their nonverbal cues, because we're in front of computers and on our phones all the time. So I help people to sink deeper into themselves in a really healthy way and ground their energy out. And it's really fun.
I'd like to have you come back in the new year just on that piece alone.
I would be honored.
Because I've had several people on the show over the course of the last 6 years who do this. And it is a real thing that really helps a lot of people, especially with PTSD.
Yes. There are a lot of veterans being helped by partnering with horses right now across the nation, which is fantastic. And on that note, since we're also coming up to Ivan Broad, is that on each day of the summit, we will have these two gentlemen doing interactive activities for the men with the horses, so that they'll see that partnering with horses is a modality of healing that they can engage in.
Oh, wow. He also works with horses.
Ivan Broad also works with horses. Ivan is from the United Kingdom, and he is psychotherapist and works with horses in partnership for counseling. He has an interesting life story because he actually used to be a counselor in a prison. And so he gets to talk about like what those men were going through, as well as his own personal experience with sexual trauma.
Wow.
So, yeah, and he'll be doing breath work with us in
I was
partnership
just going to
with
say,
horses.
I just took on a new coaching client who's special. And he was here last week. I did a 2-part thing with him because I wanted to get into that breath work part. I think that's going to be my next reach for something that I'm unfamiliar with. Because I have ADHD. I've experienced panic attacks all my life because of trauma and triggers. And I had no idea what was beneath that title of breathwork. So I'm excited about this guy, Ivan, myself.
Thank you. And on that note, next month I'll be interviewing a stand-up comedian on his experience having ADHD and with masculinity and all of that in my men's group.
I'll be there for that. ADHD is my superpower.
Yeah. So
it is. It is.
Awesome.
And here's my buddy.
There's your buddy, Perry Power, and from Great Britain. He is an amazing young man, and he is the founder of We Rescue Kids, and he will be talking about interfamilial trauma and sexual abuse for children and how we can help kids and how it impacts men and their masculinity and mental health.
Powerful story. You guys might remember Perry's been here several times over the years and had been repeatedly abused as a child by his grandfather. And just a powerful story. Just love him. Tell us about this speaker from Australia.
From Australia, yes. Simon Renee. He is a social worker in Australia, and he is a father. He struggles with OCD and depression and anxiety, and he is a specialist in those arenas. And he is going to be defining OCD a little bit better for us and how it can impact men and their mental health. And
yay!
Masculinity and fatherhood and all the pieces. So I'm really excited for him.
Even the OCD piece, if you ask me, Lauren, what do you know about OCD? I'm going to say, I don't know. Just what I learned from the show Monk. Yeah. Remember Monk?
I don't.
You're too young, girl.
I'm 42, but it's probably.
Well, Monk, he was always, fixing things and turning things. And he also was a germaphobe, but we don't know enough is my point about
absolutely.
OCD. I'm excited about this. And he's a social worker. Now we have someone from Uganda.
Yes.
Tell us about this speaker.
Henry Katinda is a really wonderful soul. He helps kids. He runs an orphanage in Uganda, and he works with the different tribes in Uganda that are in so much need of support, especially with mental health. And he's going to be talking about domestic violence that the men are experiencing and just engaging with in general, and the quarter life crisis because of the social expectations that are being put on men in Uganda at this young age, and how they're expected to run an entire household and provide for them from that standpoint financially. And then people are turning to drugs and so much more. So he's going to be discussing that. And we have more speakers that are coming on that aren't on here yet, but we have Manjunev coming from India, and we have Roberto Ramirez coming to us from Guatemala, and he also does breath work, and he is going to be on my men's membership group that's launching in January. And our first month is going to be deep diving into inner child work. And so he is going to be leading that. And because we want to have a support grouping.
This is a 2-day event, right?
It is a 2-day event. Yes, it's from 2 until 9. It's from 2 until 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, December 9th, and then from 9 to 5 p.m. on Saturday, December 10th. So we'll have interactive activities on both days with the horses, and then we'll have an hour break midday for people to just recharge. It's a long day, and it is going to be power-packed with the different conversations that we're going to be having, and people just need a little bit of space to breathe.
Let me ask you this. So we come through the 2 days, and for some people, I would have to think that it's going to be, like you said, powerful, but it could leave someone ready to change, but which way did he go? Which way did he go? So let's talk about the resources part. not just what the speakers bring, but things that we as men can use moving forward. What's going on with that inside this 2-day awesome event?
I'm so glad you asked that. So we actually have a lot of sponsors who are offering resources to the men. We have the Fatherhood Foundation that's going to be offering courses. We have another group that's offering modules. Lane is offering 10 free books of the Humble Alpha. Brett D. Scott.
Awesome.
Brett D. Scott, which is a former speaker from another summit, is offering 2 different packages worth $3,800 a piece.
I know Brett.
Brett's fantastic. We've been on each other's shows
Also
before.
Australia.
Yeah, he's a fantastic human being. And gosh, Tim Neal is another Australian, is going to be donating stuff. We have another guy giving discounts on a retreat, and we have people offering one-on-one coaching that some of the guys can have. Simon Osmond is offering some of his books for conflict resolution. Jed Diamond, the founder of Men Alive, is offering 2 of his ebooks. Men Alive is one of the oldest men's groups in America. So it's nice to get to have him as a sponsor.
Well, let me throw something. I'm feeling left out. Okay.
Please, donate.
I'll throw in 90 days of coaching.
Amazing.
90 days.
Thank you so much for your generosity.
So that's an hour a week for 3 months.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lauren. I hugely appreciate that.
Of course. I love what you're doing.
Thank
I really love what you're doing. And let's talk about how much time we got. We got 4 minutes. What would you say is your greatest hope from doing this work? What would just make you just all warm and fuzzy inside as a result of what you're doing or attempting to do here?
What would be my greatest result? It is just for men to be able to feel safer to be their most authentic selves.
And how do you think that's going to change the way we relate and navigate and work and respect each other just as people, men and women? Why do you think this is so important?
I think it's really important because I think people, they get lost a little bit in the space of ego and expectations of themselves and other people. And they struggle to be able to communicate and have healthy boundaries, and they lose themselves a little bit within that. And so if we can come to a space to be able to more healthily communicate to one another's and have a healthier mindset, then we can just be more peaceful. We can live in a space of greater gratitude and presence with ourselves and other people, and shine in our beautiful selves and our talents, and then model that for other people and be able to bring more grace and kindness and patience to one another, because we're not so busy being worried about how somebody else is going to look at us, because we'll just be able to talk to them in an authentic manner that's vulnerable and true.
Amen. Where can people find their tickets?
They can find their tickets at globalresourcesformen.com.
Oh, on the screen.
Yeah, on the screen. It's perfect. That's right there. And also, if you are struggling financially, please feel free to reach out to me, as we do have a code for people to have free tickets, because I would never want money to get in the way of somebody having the support that they need in the world.
There you go. There you go. Listen, I am so excited for what's happening here. For one reason, this one, stigma sucks. Okay. And shaming has never done anything good, as far as I know, for anyone. So you guys, listen, there it is again. Get over to globalresourcesformen.com, and then also scrolling along the bottom, because she does a lot more than just this. Get over and check our guest out, Elysia. There's her Facebook there. We're going to take the liberty of dropping both of these links inside your comment section right at the conclusion of today's broadcast. So make sure you go in there, click, and go check things out for yourself. Okay. Listen, I'm excited. Thank you. What would be your Jerry Springer final thought for folks today as we get out?
Jerry Springer, I'm not quite sure what that reference is. It's been a long time since I've seen that show.
Oh my God, this girl is so young.
But I want to say is that, like, ladies, if you want to see some, and gentlemen for that fashion, some of the previous work we've done in interviews, please do go to the YouTube channel, Global Resources for Men, because you can see some of like what men are struggling with and how they've worked through those things. So yeah, and there's so many different people out there that are doing great work in the world. I'm happy to, if you're at the beginning part of your journey in men's work and trying to get the support you need, but you don't know where to start, please feel free to reach out to me. I know so many men leading men's groups around the world, and I'd be happy to guide you there if you're not wanting to come into my group being led by a woman. I totally get it. No hard feelings.
So proud of you. Let me see. I'm trying to see who's here tomorrow. Oh, I'm excited. Dr. John DeGarmo is here tomorrow, the founder of the Foster Care Institute, and he's also consulting with me on our trip to Romania. So
Awesome.
I'm so excited. Yes, but I want to thank you again for all that you're doing, not just this wonderful event, which I will be a part of, but all that you're doing to make this world a better place for men, women, boys, girls, all of us. Thank you so much. Listen, you're welcome back anytime. I'll see you soon. And I hope to see you soon too. Like tomorrow, I'll meet you out front, God willing, at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time as we together fulfill that greatest promise that guarantees us when two or more of us comes together with the same mindset, heart set, and soul set, it's spiritual magic that comes out the other side, just like today. Thank you, Elysia. God bless you. You're doing great work. I'm going to keep my eye on you. You're one to watch. Thank you. Listen, you guys get out there. Have the best day ever. Just know that I love you and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. I'll see you. Bye-bye, y'all. Love you guys.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need a space.